Welcome to the Frank Marketing Podcast, where honest conversations, tested tactics, and no-nonsense marketing come together.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Frank Marketing Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, especially if you're coming back after another episode. So my name's Zoe and I'm the SEO specialist at Frank, and I'm joined here as always with Lee Butchery, who does all the pay-per-click. And today we're talking about building small, relevant audiences. This is becoming more and more important, we feel, something that we're doing all the time with our clients with great success. And we're going to be looking into why focusing on fewer people but more targeted people is better. Before we get into the podcast, we're going to just go through some quick updates from work and live. So Lee, you let me know what has been going on with you lately.
As you know, Zoe, I had a fall on a bank holiday Sunday. I say a fall, I didn't have a fall at all. I literally stepped out the car. I was wearing some new heels. I say heels, they're like an inch and a half. And my driveway's gravel, so I think I just hit a stone funny or landed on a stone funny, and anyway just went arse over tit. I've sprained my foot. That's how you know you're getting older.
It's not a little sprain though, is it? It's a pretty significant sprain.
It is. My foot is black, but we'll power through. We're moving. I mean, this is a beauty from in the industry we work in, right? Because I can still work from home.
How long were you in A&E for?
7 hours. Yeah.
Through the night?
Yeah, and I got there at 9:45 and I got home at 6 a.m. In hindsight, I probably didn't need to go, but I wasn't sure if I'd broken it. That was the point, because I was in so much pain.
Yeah, because they did x-ray you, because they thought you'd broken it, didn't they?
Yeah, so, but never mind. It is what it is. So, yeah. Eventful Easter. How about yourself?
I'll fill you in a second. I just want to ask another question. Was A&E was it really busy? Because obviously being there for 7 hours is savage. But were people coming in? Did they look really bad or?
It didn't. And what annoyed me actually is I got there and I think so I didn't get an x-ray till 1:30 a.m. and about 12:30, 2 police officers come in with someone they've picked up for drink driving or suspected drink driving, and he'd had a crash. So he had suspected concussion. And because they were doing a blood test for seeing how much alcohol he had in his system, because the wait was so long at A&E, he got pushed through basically.
Oh yeah, he would, yeah.
He got pushed through so he could get his bloods done. So he was in and out within 3 hours. And I was like, are you joking? This is insane. But it didn't feel overly busy. But they have a screen in there. So it's it says how many people are in front of you, how long the wait is. And it just kept going up. When I got there, it was an hour and a half. And by the time I'd left, it was over 5 hours. And I was like, this is insane. I
suppose your issue though, just would have constantly been knocked down the triage list.
Yeah, probably, because obviously I'm not in pain. Obviously I was in pain, but I'm able to sit there,
Oh, yeah.
But also when I finally got to see the consultant, he was like, oh, he was like, oh, I'm going to take you for an x-ray. And I was like, no, I had an x-ray 4 hours ago. And he was like, oh. And I was like, have you forgotten about me?
Wow. Did they?
They must have done, because he was as soon as he had the x-ray, if they'd looked at the x-ray, I would have been able to go home way sooner. But anyway, can't moan. I know it's the NHS and stuff, but for anyone who's not English or British, we do, the NHS is a free service to some extent, and we can't moan about it.
No, crazy. What's been going on with us? So, what have I been doing though? We've been decorating. I've been decorating, working, and then playing pickleball. I've actually won some gold medals now. I'm absolutely buzzed about that. And I've won them in the beginner category and the intermediate category. So I'm gonna start playing some more at that tournament soon.
Amazing.
I'm excited about that.
For all of you who are listening, Zoe Ashford is going to be the next up and coming pickleball Olympian when it finally gets to the Olympics.
Yeah, apparently it's going to go to the Olympics. I don't think I'll make it that far.
Never say never.
I reckon I could get if I could do well in my age category when I'm older,
You're geriatric.
Yeah, geriatric pickleball.
Zoe, because when I did the half marathon, did I tell you I was in the basically the elderly group, and anyone over 30 was seen as elderly, so I actually did really well in my category.
That's savage. So what do you mean each category starts at 13?
Yeah, when you get your time splits and stuff at the end, so you overall, it'll tell you like where you placed overall, but where you placed in your category. And I was in the elderly category.
Really? That seems really unfair.
30 plus. It wasn't for me because I came like 7th out of my category.
But surely there was higher categories than that.
No, it was like 30 plus.
Yeah, but you sure there wasn't also like 50 plus?
It was 30 plus.
Well, that's not very fair. If you're like 65 and you're running like a half marathon, being pitted against someone who's like 30.
Well, yeah, there we go.
In pickleball, you always sometimes you have like 15 or 19, then you have like 30, it's somewhere like 35. But then often there's like 40, 50. And there's even like in the open, there's even like a 65 plus category.
No, I'm gonna have to get you the time split so you can see, because I was like, oh wow, okay, I'm on the old category.
I just feel sorry for 6-year-olds who are having to like compete with the 30-year-olds. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is an issue for another podcast.
How's work anyway?
Work's going really well, actually. We've got a pretty nice balance at the minute. We actually have an opening for like one client right now on the SEO and PPC side, I guess, if you wanted to join forces on there, certainly on the SEO side. But I'm just kind of enjoying where we're at, like a bit more relaxed, or one less client service. So that's nice. That finished on really good terms, by the way. Really, really good terms. Never had a project not finish on really good terms. But I just sent a proposal out the other day, actually, so we'll see if anything comes of that. Yeah, and then just enjoying it. Got some good writing work. Even got, if I can put my finger out and get it done today, even get a little bonus. So that's happy days, isn't
Amazing. Yeah, that's good. I'm feeling a lot of like chatter in the industry at the moment that like there's no work out there, but I don't think that's true. I think I just go through these peaks, doesn't it? Peaks and troughs.
Yeah, I do feel like we're in a bit of a trough at the minute from where we have been. Like, I feel like 2021 was a really big year for digital marketing, obviously because of COVID and stuff. And then we've got a lot of uncertainty now, haven't we? And I don't think things are quite what they were, but I mean, I've still got leads and I've got proposals out. So,
and I think also like the economy at the moment and what is going on in world affairs is kind of, people are a bit on edge and not, you know, we feel that with a few of our clients personally. So we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely know.
Yeah. All right then. Well, this is kind of a topic that we always talk about, and I think it relates to quite a few of our clients. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. So just a little stat here. Now, I don't actually necessarily agree with this to some extent, and I'll tell you why, but let's go into the stat. So marketers who used segmented campaigns noted as much as a 760% increase in revenue. Now, this source is take Campaign Monitor, and Campaign Monitor is primarily an email tool, which again, it is from probably that. Like, I probably agree with it to some extent, but I do think this heavily relates on audiences who aren't e-commerce. And the reason I say that is because through tests and things of being in e-commerce, is if you segment too much, you kind of dilute it. Whereas that kind of, if you send one email to everyone, you're more likely a chance of a sale and you can miss people. So I do think this heavily relates for more B2B, which is the industry we're in. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Zoe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that 760% seems very excessive. I wonder if that's like per campaign or something now.
Yeah, I think so.
It probably is, isn't it? Which I guess, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, so the segmented audience would receive significantly more, like 8 times more. I'm not sure about that. I was actually, this is probably something we'll talk about after, but I did watch a video. I think I did send it to you, actually. And there was a guy saying that you can actually like over segment your audience, because obviously like 1% of 10,000 people is a lot higher than 1% of 100 people. And if your conversion rate is 1% or whatever. So you can target more and then convert more of a bigger audience, 5%.
The one that was the e-commerce client, I think I remember you sending that now.
It was e-commerce, yeah. What less? Which isn't normally we do.
I do agree to it to some extent, though. I think when we talk about campaigns and this, we're normally speaking about paid media or SEO when we talk on this podcast. So this is less on email, but I definitely think that we'll get into this, but smaller audiences, especially if you're in a very niche environment, will always convert better. Great then. So one of the things I hear a lot is like, how do you kind of scale, or not even scaling? It's kind of, I see the opposite effect where people in industries try to reach everyone with everything. So they've got really high traffic on the website, but when you look actually at the figures, the conversion rate is really low. They're just getting a lot of rubbish traffic. And what that kind of does in the end is essentially you've got all this audience to your website, and if you're doing ads especially, you're giving like wrong signals to Google about who your audience is, which has a knock-on effect for the future. So Zoe, I wanted to talk to you. Where have you seen this, where people are trying to just get lots of traffic to the website, and how do you think it does affect, especially in organic?
So getting loads of traffic is something I think we've seen less of this now, like in the industry, because it's quite hard to get like high numbers of traffic, just because those kind of like high traffic keywords are now, they're informational and AI overviews is answering them, so we're not really getting the clicks. But yeah, I think this is where we are now, is like not so much maybe for us, but there's like a transition period where SEOs are having to learn that going for traffic and clicks is not beneficial. Like if anything, I think the industry's been forced to like sophisticate itself a little bit. So where we did see it was when we had like keyword volumes, and you could write a how-to blog or a what is type blog and get like 10,000 clicks overnight. But obviously none of those people are really converting. For obvious reasons, they're just not ready. So that's where we did see it. And I do think we're having to see it less. Like we're all having to get a bit smarter. Or if you're not getting smarter with your SEO strategy, then this is a good message for someone to hear, is that we now need to worry a lot less about traffic and the size of the clicks, or the amount of clicks we get in, and worry more about the quality of the audience that we're actually getting onto the website. And, you know, it's better to have 10 good clicks than 10,000 that aren't ready to convert.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you say we've gone from moving away from these how-to blogs, because I remember when I started in the industry, it was very much like, you've got to be writing blog content to get traffic to the site. And now it's just, no, please don't do that. Because
we need to do it still, because the thing to know, and this is really interesting, is that like something like 33%, I think it is, it's either 31 or 32 or 33% of B2B audiences start their discovery process using generative AI. 30%-ish are on referral, and 30%-ish go to Google search. So actually, if someone starts writing like, what's the best CRM for a small business, and you haven't covered that anywhere, and your brand isn't associated with that, and you don't show up in ChatGPT or AI overviews or AI mode, then you won't even make a vendor shortlist. So actually, we still do need to cover this, like these informational searches, but it's more on like the GEO side than the SEO side, which I do think is all one thing really. But I suppose when I talk about like SEO and clicks, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it anymore. It just means that you're going to get visibility rather than clicks. But if you don't get the visibility in phase 1 of discovery, you'll never get the click anyway, because they would have shortlisted to like seven vendors. And you're not one, because you weren't in the AI. So that's kind of where we're going.
So that's interesting. One of the things that always strikes me as a big thing that everyone talks about is like the downfall of HubSpot. I say the downfall of HubSpot because HubSpot is not down. But you know, when on LinkedIn, Zoe, that era where it was like HubSpot's traffic just tanked, and everyone was like, oh, that's because they wrote all these like irrelevant articles and that. Like, do you want to just talk about that? Because I think that's heavier on your side.
Yeah, well, I don't really think they ever did anything irrelevant, personally. I mean, there was some, to be fair, but I mean, loads of SEOs did that. It was just like a sign of the times, really. There wasn't that many. I think the one that stands in my head is there was this like emoji one, like how to write a certain emoji, like, you know, those like when you use all like brackets and whatever to create an emoji. But they also like had killed a lot of content. They wrote a blog on it. I mean, I'm a big fan of HubSpot, and I just feel like they have loads of traffic. It was going to look.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you're particularly good at the CRM side of things, aren't you? So yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of mean.
It was so funny watching all these like SEO people just coming for HubSpot, and I was like, but what I really appreciated HubSpot did is they took that decision to say, we're going to kill a lot of this content because it's not serving us anymore. And so they did, and they knew they would have an impact. But going back to it, they probably just got rid of a load of irrelevant traffic and irrelevant audiences.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they had this really big, like, gathering the information. And we don't know what they're doing with that audience as well. Like, I would imagine they've got massive budgets for, like, paid advertising, for retargeting. They've got loads of free tools. So, like, I just don't think anyone should be looking at HubSpot for inspiration on strategy, really, because HubSpot is HubSpot and they're massive and they're doing what they're doing. And if you're like a B2B business with like 100 members of staff serving it to one certain audience, you don't need to be copying massive SaaS company with, I can't even imagine how many customers. It's one of the biggest companies, isn't it? It's huge. It's one of the biggest tech companies.
Yeah, absolutely massive. Yeah, and also going back to sort of like how organic and PPC work together. So as most of you know, me and Zoe work really closely together. And one of the biggest things that we do is we use each other's resources. So normally it starts with SEO, because Zoe will create a landing page and that I can use then for PPC. But more to that, once we get the right traffic on the website, we can then do a lot more retargeting. And that's really kind of key for when we talk about quality of audiences, that we don't need masses of audiences. We just need enough to be able to retarget. Now, Google, back end of last year, allowed your audience size to be lower. I always get this figure wrong. It's either 300 or 500. I think it's 300.
100.
What?
100 active users.
Is it 100?
Yeah, it's so low now because it used to be 1,000, but it is now
It did
100.
used to be.
Pretty sure.
God, that's terrible, isn't it? I keep forgetting. But
like, you do it every time.
What's interesting about this, though, and this is really, really key for small businesses or very niche businesses that will never, ever get 1,000 users. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with audiences and retargeting them, especially on Google, is that you can say, I want to basically fill an audience up for someone who's looked at a specific page. And we do that because you can then retarget a little bit more strategically. So previously you used to have 1,000 users, which was unachievable for a lot of businesses. Now it's dropped to 100. You only need now 100 users in a month on the page. So this is really significant for when we're retargeting. What we can then do with the audiences is if you're doing search, you can then put higher bid strategy or higher bid adjustments on users who have previously visited your website. So if they are still in that research phase, which is really key for B2B, then we can put a higher bid on them because they've already viewed us. And then they can come back. And the same works for like Meta and all these other things. So if you're filling up the retargeting or your audiences with irrelevant traffic, you're going to really see massive inefficiencies later down the line. You're just going to get a lot of wasted budget because those people really aren't interested in your product at all. So that's just one kind of key takeaway really for that. We speak about this a lot. Moving on then. So most teams still measure success through reach, impressions and audience growth, but I don't think they're actually that valuable. And I think this is really important when we're looking to scale. So kind of what matters the most is conversions, cost per acquisition, the quality of leads and engagement that leads to the action. So one of the things that we're really kind of heavy on with clients is trying to fill or understand the complete loop of sales, from marketing to sales. So we work very closely with the sales team in most businesses. Actually, I think all, Zoe?
Yeah, all. I think, yeah.
And what's really interesting is we can ask those questions. We had a conversation yesterday when I said to this client, they're a catering company, and I said, oh, weirdly, I'm getting loads of like queries for picnic catering. Like this client is a very heavy luxury caterer. So I'm like, are these leads relevant? Because if they're not, if these inquiries coming through aren't relevant, like we need to kill it, because again, I'm feeding our audiences and our traffic with really irrelevant audiences. She's come back actually and she said, no, they actually are really good quality, which is great. And now what that does is now it feeds into potentially SEOs area where we might want to create a landing page for this. So that's really awesome. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think what you just said really is like, yeah, so what matters, conversions, quality leads, engagement. So these are all metrics that are tied to like business outcomes, are all in pursuit of revenue. And we've always been good at that, to be fair. But I think I kind of feel like ads have always had to do this though as well, which I think is quite interesting. Like people measure ads, people have always measured, or businesses have always measured ads on like, what's the return, what we're spending this, so we get an X back. Whereas SEO is kind of, I feel, managed to like get away with these kind of like vanity metrics for a long time, but now it's being judged on the same type of metrics and as it should be, in my opinion. Yeah, one thing we do is like we break, I suppose, talking about like the picnic page, that kind of thing, is we always have like a service page, which will be catering, for example. And then these like sub-service pages to get these very specific people on. And when you can create a lot of pages, it doesn't have to be always have to be on the main menu. Sometimes they are really just serve ads. Sometimes SEO, like there's nothing wrong with SEO having a very niche page, is there? I can remember talking once to a client about like, an SEO, like what I call as a landing page. And they were like, oh, well, I think about that's not really an SEO thing, that's a pay-per-click thing. And I thought, well, why? Because if I can get a very specific page up, why would we not have that? And that to me is a landing page, like a page dedicated for a certain person with a certain problem to land on through Google. And why not do that?
I don't know. Again, talking about smaller audiences, that these aren't pages that have huge volume, but what happens is if we'll take the picnic thing, for example, picnic catering, if we were to have a landing page that's straight in the face, has a picture of a fucking really luxury picnic, it has the text, it has all the information that they need on it, that is going to convert way more better than the homepage that says luxury catering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it matches that user intent there. And I think it's interesting you said there's nothing wrong with creating niche landing pages, and I hate landing pages is such a funny one because PPC, we use them in PPC and SEO. Why are we not using them for dual purposes? Myself and Zoe use them dual. We've got a really good template that we know it converts very well, and that kind of just gets regurgitated, doesn't it?
Yeah. Doesn't it also improve like your ad quality and stuff, so your numbers can go down because it's so targeted and relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have essentially, if you've got a campaign running for picnic catering and I'm sending them to a page that doesn't ever mention picnics, the ad quality score is going to go down, which then impacts your bids and your cost per click and all these other things. But again, I don't want people on the website. I want to make the process of people getting the service that they want so easy. They shouldn't have to think really. They should just they've already got that high intent, they're on the page, they need to know what to do next. If we're having to ask them to then sort of find their feet on the website, we're just going to lose them. So they might be really relevant, but then if you don't offer them the next step, you're going to lose them. So that's really important as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll just go back to what you said about PPC, that kind of the industry's always kind of done this kind of looking at cost per acquisition and things like that, and it is more business success led to some degree. I think we used to heavily look at cost per click was always the biggest thing. We need that to be lower than £1 or $1 or whatever, but in actual fact I've seen some of the best quality leads coming from a $20 click and converted. So, and I think any client would agree that they would rather spend more to get the best person on the site than spend less and get 100 rubbish ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't care what you're spending if it's converting in the end, or at least that's how it should.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think cost per acquisition is an interesting one as well. Unless you're in, a very heavy e-commerce driven business where you do have a lot smaller margins. Obviously, cost per acquisition is important to keep that low. But when you are in B2B, they tend to have higher budgets. And I've seen cost per acquisition for one client sits at around $260, which sounds kind of insane. But when you think about their minimum order value is around 700,000. So I'm like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have cheap CPA and still get this. But we're still talking 0.05% of what the actual sale could be,
Yeah, totally makes sense.
So the next point, I guess, going back to audiences, and so how do we stop trying to reach everyone and start with the people that are already showing value? So I think this is kind of goes back to a little bit with SEO and things, but I think the bottom line is trying to identify already your high performing audience. So it would go back to basics really, is looking at CRM, seeing where these leads came in from, what type of people they are, how they found you, and all of these things. I think that's going to be your starting point, is finding that audience first. Zoe, do you want to just pull on how you can look at this from an SEO lens as well?
Yeah, so through the traditional SEO approach, I think it's actually quite tricky now, because I think, as I said earlier, lots of people are doing this early search through generative AI now, like AI overviews or ChatGPT or whatever. And they're asking like very like specific problems. Like we don't really have it. We used to just look at keywords in a way and go, oh, we'll target that keyword and build the campaign out with content. And that is still true. It's still useful. But I think SEO has kind of lost track of kind of what people are searching because it is so personal and specific now. So like I'm looking for a CRM for my company with 10 salespeople who are blah, 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 blah. Like it becomes more descriptive. So I think what you have to do is look outside of the SEO data to some degree and then look at actually, like you said, like at your CRM, actual customers, which ones are converting well, who do you like working with? Like, let's get more of them. And then building pages specifically for them and their problems. You know, and there's a major benefit to that on the AI side as well, in that the more specific you are, you will then be the person that's cited in those AI citations and mentions. So it will bring you into its answer. And then we know that the traffic from AI, although a lot smaller, converts a lot more. So I think for our clients, we're seeing around about a 7% conversion on AI, which is really high compared to like a rough average of like, what, 3% across, would you say? But actually organic converts around about 1% because you get that more kind of relevancy. So building these kind of high intent pages for people who you know. So I really, at this point, I really think SEO needs to worry a lot less about the data and more about what you know about your audience. I will still go and find the data, don't get me wrong. I'm always looking to do that. But I think it's like the next bit. So the first challenge is who do we want? Why do we want them? And you know that from how you want to take your business. And then you go and find the marketing data to kind of construct the plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've recently done is we were basically, one of the clients were trying to shift positioning slightly, and the things they've always kind of led on more of the D2C. People were now moving into B2B, a lot more industrial kind of led audiences. And one of the things I did is said, right, if we're going to get more sales for this product or more inquiries for this specific product and service, how do we go about that? Now, the best thing that I did was I actually just had a conversation with the sales team and said, who are these people you're talking to? What do they do? What questions are they asking? And then that, for me, kind of then feeds into where we are missing gaps then on the website or ads or whatever. So that was a really useful thing if you are wanting to kind of identify those audiences, speak to the sales team, speak to the people that are already talking to that audience. A lot of people are forgetting they're probably sitting on like a gold mine of data as well. Like that data is like your CRM data is like, that use that before you start scaling anything. Like, have you like utilized that data to its fullest? Have you reached out to these people again? Like, and I'm talking like not even just doing marketing now, like just actually when you last contact people. If people have given over their email address or you've got their contact details, their intent is so high that you start there first before ever trying to scale out and find new audiences.
Yeah, it definitely makes solid sense. I think what we said about the email there as well. People, kind of a bit sick of spam at this point. So if someone is invested enough to do that, then
yeah. I mean, even now, like Zoe, I look at like online shopping and that. Like, I won't give over my email address until I'm, when they give you, oh, you got 10% off on your first order. Like, I'm not giving you my details until I'm certain I want that item.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
I'm sick of it. Absolutely sick of it. And then just one thing I wanted to touch on, Zoe, if, say we've got, you've really buttoned down your audience, you know exactly who you're wanting to target, where would you then try and scale that organically?
Well, that's a really good question. So, well, it's just not so much about scaling, but always first through like a bottom funnel page, something that people are actually going to convert on. And then you will need to build out pages, obviously, for Google search in your keyword plan, as always. Some of these keywords are not going to get clicked, but one thing we're exploring quite a lot at the minute with this kind of like idea of like scaling it is like through like case studies and stuff. Because the reason why we're doing a lot of this is going back to the AI stuff. When people are searching for very specific types of problems or solutions or things they want. Like just thinking about like the catering company, for example, like a very specific type of wedding in a specific venue. All of this kind of the case study content is where you can showcase that work and then be pulled in as like examples or into the AI overviews. But I still think the keyword, like stuff like keyword mapping, it's still a thing to me. Still creating that content, still building that into the blog. Yes, you won't get the clicks that you used to, but you will still get them. And then I suppose the other way to scale these things is to break up your main service page into these like sub services. So like, yeah, like maybe you start with weddings, and then maybe it's like outdoor weddings, marquee weddings, I don't know, weddings in castles, whatever type of thing you're doing. Obviously you need to go back again, still need to do like the SERP analysis. So we're still looking at Google and seeing how Google understands the keywords, all that type of stuff. That to me is kind of still the same in SEO. I don't think anything really has changed there. Still need to be creating the content.
Yeah. And then on the back of that, for talking of paid media, if I was really sure that I'd buttoned down the audiences, where would I go then? First, if you're, I guess it's all going to depend. One of the things that I'd look at is locations. If you're targeting a small sect, you could obviously expand that out. If you're already targeting kind of everyone, then it would be a case of working with your SEO person. Is there any more niche keywords that we can get in? I'm not going to say budget, just because a budget doesn't always necessarily mean you can scale. Obviously, to some extent, yes, it does. But I think for me, scaling would be expanding the account in more niche keywords, or expanding into retargeting as well, but really making sure that your conversion path is like solid, and then you can sort of look to expand out that. So like I said, landing pages are really important. I feel like we've got landing pages to a T actually, Zoe. I feel like we've created, or you and Stu have created really good landing pages that do convert. So that's how I would do it. Interestingly, we've got kind of a client at the moment who needs more brand exposure. This is going to completely contradict what I've just said, but there is a purpose behind this. So brand exposure for them means that we're going to have to look at really kind of more broader or top of funnel keywords for advertising. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend this, but again, because the purpose is brand exposure, this is the quickest way to do it. As long as it's informed and there's some strategy behind it, the audiences should still be kind of relevant. But I will be pointing them to the homepage. Now, I don't necessarily retarget on people who've just been visiting the whole of the website. So I think that's going to be okay on a retargeting aspect. But that is one way you can, I guess, scale to some extent. But the client's very aware. It's like, this campaign is not going to convert. It's purely just for more exposure for you. So as long as it's completely strategized, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, they definitely need that. But I mean, yeah, like none of this is to say like just because we're talking about building smaller audiences doesn't mean there's not space for like bigger ones. This is just, this is just the use case for smaller audiences, and that it's more like what you're doing with the brand is not so much, you're not trying to close, like you just said, it's not going to convert, you know that. But the small audiences, I think, is more like, I want to get this sort of person, I want them to close in, I don't know, 6 months or whatever your kind of lead time is. That's what the small audience is for. And it's different, isn't it? It's like a slightly different strategy.
Yeah, but it's this whole like get out of this mindset of trying to be like everywhere all at once, because it just really focusing on what's working and just then try and scale it versus the reverse engineering it.
Yeah, definitely red.
Cool then. So any final thoughts on that, Zoe?
I suppose we can like summarize what we've kind of been through. So what we're saying is it's not always better to go after everybody. In fact, I think it's rarely better to go after everybody. Focus on the right audiences who drive the outcomes you want, like revenue or selling a certain product or service. Use data from CRM to drive, that's probably use data from CRM and your actual customers to drive the data, and then go and get the marketing stuff to support it, I guess, or to refine the plan. And yeah, I guess what we're saying is, in our experience, small relevant audiences convert better, scale more effectively over time compared to this kind of like blanket attempt to get everyone onto the website. So yeah, the goal overall is meeting the right people, solving their problems, building like a relationship with them, even if that means like through content, and guiding them to a conversion.
Sounds good. Cool then. So we've just got some questions from LinkedIn. Well, this is funny one. How small is too small, or is that a wrong question? Obviously, I don't necessarily... Okay, we've probably got two different views on this, Zoe. Let's go to you first. Is there such a thing as too small of an audience?
Well, no, I don't think there is really. Because I'm thinking about like our client Abby Ramp, who build these like airport ramps to get people onto aircraft, so instead of stairs. And I'm like, how small is their audience really? Like on the scale of like compared to like an e-commerce brand or something, it's like it's tiny, isn't it?
Very niche.
Like there's only so many airports and malls, so their audience is like going to be really small, and that's fine because we don't need that's what the business is. That's fine. So I don't really think there is a too small, but I think the thing to do is not to. You never really rest on it, do you? So it's like, we create a small audience of people who want, for example, to get married outside with a luxury caterer. But then we also then go and find another audience who want to get married at a castle with a luxury caterer. And then, so it's like, they're small audiences, but you don't stop at one, do you? You build out, loads over time.
Yeah, and I think on PPC, then go back to that, there isn't such a thing as too small of an audience. There is such a thing as too small of an audience when you're trying to retarget. That's another thing. But I think if you can get a good quality lead in, I think the biggest takeaway is that what does that lifetime value look of them as well? Because with AviRamp, for instance, they do the whole spare parts thing, the maintenance, the servicing, like that lifetime value is probably way more important than the actual initial sale. And, what we're doing at the moment is we're trying to expand into the US. That's a region that they've touched briefly on, but that's going really well at the moment. And through organic efforts as well, we're getting a lot more kind of leads in, but we're actually like picking out certain areas now because they've got dominance in the UK, I suppose. It's now just trying to expand that audience out into different regions, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, even it's like France and Spain and stuff, isn't it? So it's never really over, is it?
It's not, no. This is an interesting one, though, because this actually leads back to AviRamp. How do you prove the value of small audiences to stakeholders who expect growth charts?
Well, I mean, I think they're still getting growth, aren't they? Like, so AviRamp, for example, used to rank on their brand, and that was it. They didn't have a single, they had I think they had 47 clicks in a year for non-branded search. And now they're getting more than that. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's like, I think it's like double and more of that. Obviously, I mean, into like hundreds, not that much, but it is in a niche, it's kind of niche, like B2B audience. I'm just going to have a look to see what they're getting. But my point is they are getting growth. So I don't really think it's good enough to not get any growth anywhere. Like you're still getting clicks to websites and you're still improving on where things were. I think you have to dig in a little bit. Like I think site-wide increases, I don't know, click graphs used to just look really like up, and I guess they do look less like that now. But I think growth still needs to be there. You still need to be improving clicks to websites. We're still looking at keywords being like, why have the keywords containing London dropped? Like that's a really important audience to this client. Let's get it back. We're still doing all that. So I think clients rightfully expect growth. And growth in conversions is a must, for sure. Yeah. So I think you still need to be able to demonstrate that. Maybe the answer to this is focusing small again. So it's like, we created this landing page for this audience. It didn't exist before. Now we've got 50 clicks a month. Like that type of growth. Like we're not talking like tens of thousands of clicks overnight anymore.
No, if you think about when we got the AviRamp account, obviously their ads at the time looked like they were amazing, if you remember. But rightfully, the client was like, we're not seeing these leads. I was like, no, you're not. And I remember getting into the account and seeing all this traffic coming to the website. Oh, God, it was so irrelevant. But when we had to do like a bit of an educational piece with the client and say, look, more clicks is complete waste. And when I showed them which keywords are driving those clicks in, they were like, why are we advertising for this? And I was like, exactly. So actually having that educational piece with the CEO and the rest of the team, and then sitting down and saying, look, this is going to look like it's tanked. I think we both said this, didn't we? I said, what we're doing is going to make look like traffic and everything is tanked on there. But I promise you, if we now get the right audience, we'll go up. So it's interesting, like clicks have gone down, conversions have gone up. But again, it's because we've got the right audience there.
Yeah, exactly. So so I think growth still has to be there, to be honest. It might just not look as exciting as it once did.
But you say that you can put a graph together. I don't care if it's only gone up. Like if you say 2 to 4, it's gone up 100%, right?
Yeah.
So you can, like, when you're doing data, like it might be small data sets that you've got, but it definitely is impactful. And as long, you've got that kind of growth.
Yeah, totally, bro. You can only judge a site on where it is, relatively speaking, I guess.
So I think this one's for you, actually. How do you unlearn years of more impressions equals better marketing? Now, I say this is for you because I remember when you first started out with that jewelry brand. So I know we spoke about this before, but on a podcast, but I think it'd be good to go over that.
Yeah. So the jewelry brand Lee's referring to is what went really early on in my career, and I just didn't really know. Didn't really have the awareness to do anything. Like, I thought that just by getting people to the website, I would just convert people. I ended up, I was getting like millions of clicks, never mind impressions, for this brand to blogs and stuff. I just had the sense to look into this. Like, I was like, oh, well, what does conversion look like? I don't know if that's because I've always worked quite closely with you. It's like a PPC person where you would have to prove your conversions. I was like, well, I want to prove my conversions. I want to share like how much money I've earned. The more money I can make them, then maybe I can ask for some more money myself. So I just looked into it, and then I actually couldn't find a way to. There was no proof in the data that anything I had done had resulted in a single sale. I'm talking like millions of people were hitting this website. So I learned quite quickly that you can get a lot of traffic to a website that's completely pointless. Because I'm quite a conscientious person, that's not really the challenge I wanted. I always want to be able to prove my worth and stuff. So I just started becoming more interested in conversions and had a bit of a rude awakening when I kind of realized that a lot of my SEO wasn't actually getting conversions. And that's when I changed tack. Then I started looking back. Then I was doing e-commerce, started looking at category pages and products. Now we do that similarly, but with more B2B and services and stuff. So I always go to the service page first to try and get the page that's actually going to generate revenue performing in Google or in AI. I think it's really hard because I think there's going to be lots of people who are starting SEO today who don't have this kind of history. But if clicks and impressions used to be enough, you've got to get really used to sitting in a very uncomfortable place where your work is being judged based on whether or not it's converting. And it's very obvious if your channel is working for the business or not. And this is something you've lived with, though, I feel, because you did pay-per-click. So that was always a judgment on your work. Do you know what I mean? Whereas for me, it was quite new to get really uncomfortable with the fact that what you're doing actually isn't making any difference to a business.
I do think businesses and that are way more savvy with marketing now. So back in the day, SEO was like some weird black magic that only SEO experts knew what it did and what it meant. And I think similarly to PPC actually, but I think because they're a bit more savvy now, they want to know, okay, well, you've told me we've got all of these number one top spots, but why aren't they converting? And that's the questions people are being asked now. Why am I spending money on something that isn't working? And I think it's even more prevalent now with AI overviews that people are like, why am I paying for SEO when I can? I think there's still a misconception, but there is a lot of that. And I think it comes down to just people being more educated and wanting to know where their money's going, basically.
Yeah, it's probably a sign of the times as well, going back to what we said earlier on about people needing to watch their money, being a bit more careful. You want to make sure it's performing for you. I think it's a good thing. I think it's scary, but I think it's a good thing for everybody because I think you get more challenged. You have to.
But it actually makes you more strategic in that you can see what's converting. And then if you know it's converting, you can replicate it. But it's that learning curve. So you need to start looking at how people are using the website as well as once you've got them on there, how do they use it? How are they converting? And it makes you a better all-round marketer, I believe.
Totally agree. And I think that's one of the best things to come, going a bit off topic now, but that is one of the best things to come off the back of all this GEO stuff and AI is I think SEO has been forced to become better at marketing. Because it's just not a visibility thing anymore. It has to drive business outcomes. And I think that's a really good thing.
Well, it kind of leads to our next podcast, actually.
Yeah, nice getting it.
It does, yeah. Well, Zoe, have you got anything more to add to this episode?
No, I think that's pretty much it, really. I think we wrapped it up pretty well. As I was going to say, it's shortish for us, not still quite long, but never mind. Like you said, leading on nicely from the GEO stuff, as our next topic is going to be how AI is shaping marketing. We're going to talk about our experiences there. And I think that's going to be really good podcast, actually. Very topical. So yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Follow us on LinkedIn and do feel free to share your experiences with AI because we'll be able to share them on the next podcast. Or if you've got questions specifically about that, we can then answer them on the next show. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frank Marketing Podcast. We'll be releasing a new episode every month, so don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.